Welcome, everybody, to this month's edition of The Wellness Policy. My name is Wai Ting, and my co-host, as always, the man with the cowbell himself, Jordan Beatwell. What's going on?
Yes. Wait, let's play today.
Let's play.
Let's play.
Yeah.
That sounded weird.
That sounds weird. Yeah, that sounds oddly, suggestive. And I don't think in a way that's, you know what? Sure, let's run with it. Yeah, Jordan, let's play. Looking forward to
I'm in the mood, man. This is the inaugural POST Wrestling Thursday afternoon war.
Fuck. Yeah.
I come armed. Not only do I have this cowbell mallet, I was looking for a pizza cutter. I thought there was a pizza cutter. We're settling for the ice cream scooper today.
That is a deathmatch object we've yet to see Nick Gage pull out, you know?
And like, I think we kind of like evolved from perhaps the ECW era of the cheese grater into this 2021 era of the pizza cutter. And like, I mean, I'm like packing hard, man. Like, I got ice cream scoopers for days.
How do you have 3 ice cream scoops in your possession? What's the point of that?
That's actually a wonderful question. I don't know.
You don't want to contaminate. At the buffet, they would have multiple ice cream scoopers because they don't want to contaminate or to allow multiple people to eat ice cream at once. Is that what's going on at your place?
I am just highly responsible when it comes to ice cream consumption and distribution. Let's go with that.
Interesting. All right. Well, congratulations, Jordan. We are definitely going to get some scoops on this podcast as we talk. What are we here to talk about, Jordan, this week?
We're here to talk about play. We read a book written by an MD about the concept of play from many perspectives, both evolutionary and biologically and socially and so on and so on. We're here to talk about play. It is something that I have built a career on in many ways. It's something I'm passionate about, and I think it's something that not too many in our culture respect enough.
It's honestly, when you suggested the topic in this book to me, it's honestly something I can't say I've given much thought to. Many times some of the topics we cover on the show are things that are there to, I think, address concerns and issues that are currently going on in some of our lives. And the topic of, am I getting enough play in my life, is never something I honestly ever think about. It's usually, am I working hard enough? How can I be more productive? I think about, okay, well, how do I manage stress? But rarely do I think about play as sort of like an intrinsic need in my life. And is that part of the issue? And why is that, Jordan?
I think play is in many ways kind of like the oil that we need, the lubricant, if you will, that kind of gives life a sense of vitality and a sense of connection and a sense of more generally feeling alive. I would argue that for many of us, increasing our play time, we could say, would actually make us more productive and effective in our work.
And that's something that this book that we will be kind of, framing our conversation around, called Play by Stuart Brown, MD. The MD means you can trust him. Has written about. He has done a lot of research into the importance of play in our adult lives. And many examples that he cites from the book are from children, of course, but also from the animal kingdom, which I found pretty fascinating. I watched his TED Talk after this as well, and he constantly brings up this idea of this polar bear and a husky. This polar bear who, at first looked like he was about to eat this husky, but because the husky was wagging its tail, the polar bear, who's 20 times as big as this husky, engaged in a beautiful act, ballet-like. It seems to be the way he describes it. A ballative form of play between these two wild animals. And what he goes on to talk about is how play is a way to indicate safety and a way to indicate trust. and a way to indicate safe exploration, which we certainly feel perhaps as children, but maybe we kind of lose sight of as adults.
Totally. And I think to go a step further, especially for skeptics, we learn a lot by studying other animals, obviously being a descendant of them. But this idea that play doesn't have like an inherent immediate survival outcome, like fulfilling hunger or safety, and that with play there is some danger involved. So he gave some example of animals, kind of living and playing on a mountain, and sometimes they can trip and fall to their death. But yet many animals continue to play, meaning that within that behavior there is some mechanism that helps ensure our greater survival as a species.
Right. In your own personal life, Jordan, like maybe were some areas that you've kind of found this to be, I don't know, the case, maybe as you were reading the book, or maybe now even just thinking about it.
You're asking just where play has emerged in my own life?
Yeah.
I'm a musician. I mean, that's how I most identify. I've done many things, like quote unquote professionally, whether it's more in like marketing and branding, or broadcasting, or as a clinical psychotherapist or a group facilitator. But like when I'm filling out an information form at the doctor's office and it says occupation, I write musician. That's how I most identify. And I wasn't a musician because I took lessons as a kid where I was taught to perform in a specific way. And if I didn't do it correctly, then I was labeled wrong. Like, I'm a musician because that's how I've naturally played for most of my life. I didn't really fuck that much with sports or video games as a kid. I played music with my friends. So I play in many ways, but the constant has always been playing music.
I find it fascinating how some forms of, I don't know, activity like are allowed to have the word play attached to it. We say play music. You know, we say, I don't know, play video games, or do you say, like, when you're acting, do you say play? Like, I'm going to play. Well, yeah, I'm going to play such and such character.
Well,
But
or like theater, it's called a play,
yeah,
literally.
exactly. Yes. Yet, like, if we're talking about the act of creating and performing, I mean, we have an accountant here, a professor, accounting professor in the Zoom with us. Shout out Professor Kevin. And I think you can argue there's a great deal of creativity and performance and something like that. Why can't we say that, hey, I'm going to play accounting? Should we?
I would, I think, and he digs into this into the book, but I think using play as a lens through which we can experience life more generally, using play as a lens through which we can experience career more generally, oftentimes can be helpful and advantageous to us.
Right. So from the book, from your reading, Jordan, like what are maybe some other ways that, Stuart Brown suggests we should perhaps integrate play, and why it's important?
Um, So he kind of like breaks this up into different chapters. So there's a whole section of kind of play throughout the lifespan. So digging into how play just naturally emerges in like infants and babies and young children. And really like that's how, in many ways, they kind of start bonding with their mother, with their parents, or with other people in their lives. And then as they start to grow up a bit into, 4, 5, 6 years old. Like it talks about the concept of parallel play, where you'll see two kids kind of sitting side by side playing on their own, but eventually that starts to become like an interplay of sorts. And in doing so, that's kind of how you learn how to engage with other human beings, not unlike animals use play to figure out what the boundaries are. Humans and young children in particular, if they have like a healthy play diet, then they're figuring out like taking turns and empathy, and doing this to this person actually was like crossing a line. So we're kind of learning boundaries in that sense. And then as you get more into like adolescence, playing games and sports and stuff. And I really liked some of his examples of like playing a sport, for instance, where the people doing it are just making up the rules as they go along. So you're learning like how to organize in a group of human beings and figure out like what's acceptable in this culture right now of a group of people and what's not, and at what points do you cross the boundary, so on and so forth. So yeah, look, I don't think the book was for me like the most entertaining read, but it was something that had been sitting on my bookshelf for 10 years, given that play is one of the thesis of my work, especially in the drum circle facilitation that I do. But it definitely was emboldening and helpful for me to kind of reaffirm not only my inherent belief in play, but getting some of the science behind it and getting some of just the context of there are other people out there at high levels studying this stuff and applying this stuff and like championing this stuff, quite literally.
I would tend to agree with you, Jordan. For a book called Play, it wasn't the most fun read. But or for me, actually, I kind of split this time between audiobook and reading. And I feel like part of the reason for that is because I don't know how it is a very deep topic, but I suppose like to me it seems like it's more of a one page sort of like this is why it's important. And I don't know how much more I need to like kind of really figure out beyond that. I mean, unless of course, you have like more of a kind of clinical, interest in the topic. Nonetheless, the idea that you have these kind of like, intellectuals championing the freedom to just like have fun is something that is incredibly freeing, because as adults, I think we somehow we associate play as something that children do, and in fact we might feel guilty about it if we take maybe 2-3 hours away from work to like fuck around with Lego or like something like that. It feels like something we have to earn, and that if we're not doing the dishes, if we're not like doing some sort of chore that's on our to-do list, we should feel guilty about it. So at least this type of stuff, this type of research legitimizes play as something that actually facilitates and could possibly help our productivity in so many of those other areas. Kevin actually has a question in the chat room for you, Jordan. He says, I've always associated parallel play with a negative context. For example, a couple sitting on the couch watching TV together versus doing something more engaging. Does parallel play have a negative connotation for you, Jordan?
In general, no. Especially, the example I used before of younger children with parallel play, like that's kind of how they're starting to feel a bit more comfortable around strangers. Within their own kind of internal experience. If you're hanging with someone and both of you are doing your own thing, just sharing the same space, that's not inherently negative. That could be a lovely experience. If I'm with like a girlfriend or a best friend and we've spent a lot of time together, like sometimes I kind of want to just do my own fucking thing, but it's still nice to share the space with them. Now, if that's the baseline or the totality of your experience, well, then it may be worth kind of checking in and kind of understanding why you're not engaging more. But I wouldn't necessarily say parallel play generally is inherently negative.
Yeah, like if your parallel play is like doing drugs together, that seems pretty bad. Like anything, I don't think watching TV in itself is such a bad thing. It's not to say like all the time you spend with your loved one has to be productive. But even productivity is subjective. You could be watching something and it could be really important to you. For me, like me and my fiance, like a big part of the way we bond is through our shared experience watching a show and then, either talking about it or like being able to reference it or anticipating it beforehand. So to me, that it's an important bonding activity for us.
Dude, you and I, like the past month, have been playing Words with Friends.
Yes. I've been smoking you. I've been smoking Brandon from New Jersey too. But
let's be real.
He doesn't really try, actually.
He averages like a good 7 to 8 points per word, I would say.
Yeah, I don't think he really tries. But you know what? I have to say, Jordan, and I'm glad you brought this up. This is because I want to talk about this in the context of this conversation. Where we cross the boundaries between play and maybe something that is a bit more serious. Because I find, Jordan, when I'm playing against you, th- okay, well, first, when I play against Brandon, I don't get the sense he tries at all because he'll put like the worst words. And
If I can just
I
stop you, he actually used the word "wa" in our game, like WAH.
I didn't know it was an officially recognized word. That's a W and an H. Those are high scoring letters.
Yeah,
That's
well,
great.
I think now, perhaps after that cameo, it's been inducted into the dictionary.
Yes, I'm already over it, everybody. But yes, okay, you can continue to call me Wah if you need. Um, but anyway, I have to say, when I'm playing against him, I'm just like, okay, whatever. I don't have to look for the highest scoring words. When I'm playing against you, Jordan, I have to devote my full attention to what I'm going to do because it is competitive. All right, we're talking triple word, we're talking quadruple words, we're talking triple letter and a triple word. It's like it's intense, and sometimes it becomes less fun because there's pressure. Like
Mm.
how I have to do well. I have to I have to beat Jordan. And so is there sort of like a threshold in trying to maintain that sort of playfulness while still, I guess, I don't know, engaging and I don't know, doing the actual activity.
Well, I think part of the point of a book like this and a conversation like the one that we're having and sharing right now is just to get us to ask these questions, to ask us to consider at any given moment, like what state are we operating from? Are we more in a play state or are we more in a competitive state? Now, there can be competitiveness in play, and that can be really fun, or it could spill over to the point where it starts to become more about you trying to be perceived a certain way, or you trying to feel like you're a smart person, or whatever it may be. And when it spills over into that territory, well, then I would argue we're not playing anymore, or at least you're not playing anymore. And like that's something to be mindful of as well. But like a point I was working to before was that this culture so much has beat into us this idea that productivity equals value, personal value, capital value, etc. And we are naturally players. Like we naturally play. That's what we do as biological organisms and as human beings. And for the culture to kind of beat that out of us and to make us feel shameful or that it's less than or it's a waste of time or it's something for kids, I think that's to our detriment. I think that's not helpful. And I would argue that you and I playing words with friends in a way which is true play, like I think that is really helpful, not only to our friendship, but to like our own personal health. And if that's how you define productivity, then I would say that like that is actually productive for us.
Perhaps part of the reason why maybe there is such built up aversion to play as adults is because we maybe have in our own lives seen examples of there being too much play and not having and in fact having your hobby or whatever it is get in the way of, and certainly like video game addiction, any sort of like, I don't know, addiction to watching TV or whatever. These are things that are playful but they get in the way of productivity. So what does Stuart Brown perhaps say, and what do you think, Jordan, about perhaps being, what he calls like the, so there's a chapter called the dark side of play, which is
A future
more so
documentary series on Vice.
the dark side of play. To me though, that chapter was more about like what happens if you don't get enough play in your life. But I guess for this portion of the conversation, how do we make sure that we have enough work attached to the play?
Yeah, so not only just a play deficiency, but yeah, whether play becomes an addiction or play turns into something much more like evil or destructive. You know, sometimes it goes into uh,
Like manipulation or like playing with people's like relationships.
Yeah, or he'll talk about, sometimes if someone got like beat up seriously or things like that, or others were abused, and the perpetrators will often say, "Oh, like we were just playing," or it just started out as like playful, and then it turned into something else. So I guess one of the points I was trying to make before is I think having these conversations and just creating this type of ways in which we relate to this concept of play, like it helps us be more mindful about, like, again, where we are operating from. And it can really be up to us to decide, like, yo, I love playing words with friends, but now it's starting to interfere with my attention when I'm hanging with my spouse or my child. Or I love words with friends, but now it's interfering with my ability to be effective and responsible at work. And ultimately, that's like an individual responsibility to be able to monitor within ourselves. So like with most things in life, it's a balance, and it's being able to find like that line of what is most optimal for us.
It's a balance, and I would say Brown also seems to contend that even a distinction between work and play, he believes is like a false social construct. Instead, what I think he's trying to preach is that we begin to integrate a playfulness into our work lives, a playfulness into our everyday lives, whether it be your chores or personal relationships or whatever you do to make money. I just wanted to maybe read maybe one of the passages from the book about this topic. He says, "Far from standing in opposition to each other, play and work are mutually supportive. They are not poles at opposite ends of our world. Work and play are more like the timbers that keep our house from collapsing down on top of us. Though we have been taught that play and work are each other's enemy, what I have found is that neither one can thrive without the other. We need newness of play, its sense of flow and being in the moment. We need the sense of discovery and liveliness that it provides. We also need the purpose of work, the economic stability it offers, the sense that we are doing service for others, that we are needed and integrated into our world. And most of us also need to feel competent. Even people who are independently wealthy and never need to work a day in their lives find that they need to volunteer or donate to good causes to feel that sense of connection and purpose." So, yeah, so even people who are completely, like, if we win the lottery, like, I often think about this. Okay, when I win the lottery, uh, when Post Wrestling gets sold to whatever Warner Media, we become billionaires, John and I, and everybody else attached to us. Will I still work? And if I don't work, will I be happier? I feel like I'll probably still work, to maintain that sense of purpose. And as much as I think it would be enticing to just sit around and play all day, like that to me is just not that interesting.
No, there's what's fulfilling about just like chilling all the time. Again, it's the balance. For my own career trajectory, and now what part of what I've included into my day-to-day professional life is like professional coaching, mostly focused on business and career. And sometimes that's a question I'll ask myself or ask clients that I'm working with. Like, if you just hit the lottery and like, became Virgil with all his fuck money, like what would you do? What would you actually do like day to day? And would there be a sense of like you're building something in the world? And when I answer that for myself, much of what I do and have done for the past decade plus, I'd still be doing it. Maybe I wouldn't be doing it like as much, and I definitely would outsource a lot of what makes it feel like a grind.
Mhm.
But the overall mission in what I'm doing, both with introducing like a concept like play and going to conferences and different like clinics and introducing this idea of rhythm-based play, especially in a more professional context. Like, fuck yeah, I'd still be doing that. So that at least makes me feel like I'm on the right path. Because, and if anything, having the money, that's just more fuel to like, like puts rocket power onto the path that I'm on. What also helps is that like, it's easier for me to not take everything so seriously. I get rejected a lot, but I also like ask for stuff a lot. And with that, you get no's. And what's helped me not take a lot of this so personally or seriously is that I also kind of try to treat career as a game. And it's like, okay, like, how do I figure out the rules? What is the prize, or how do I level up? And like, how do I figure out strategy to like get to the next level in this game? And when people tell me no, it's easier to like not take that as an invalidation of who I am as a human being and my inherent worth. And it's just like, that boss beat me, and like, try again.
To not take it so seriously. Something I remember from my jujitsu practice was, my coach, my professor at the time, Elliot Bayev. He's just tremendous. He's actually was Phil Chertok's coach as well. And one of the things he would constantly remind us of is to keep it playful. When you keep it playful, you take the ego out of the equation. You're not hurt if you are forced to tap. It's just a game, you know. You can replay, you can hit start, and it's a brand new level playing field. Keeping it playful was something that I think is very important and keeps people practicing, so that ultimately they could become good. So the question now is, Jordan, like you bring up a great example of how you're able to kind of enter your work life with maybe a sense of play by thinking of it as a game. What does Stuart Brown suggest when we try to when he talks about finding that North Star? How do we take our play histories, as he calls them, and know what values from our play that we enjoy, that we want to try to integrate into our work lives?
What was kind of validating about reading this is that much of what I set out to do in my own coaching work is very similar to his model. It had been sitting in a closet for a decade, but it feels validating that it kind of intuitively came to me too. Like, when I'm working with people, I'm interested in what gives them energy. Like, what makes them feel most alive? What makes them feel most like themselves? And especially as kids, when most of us felt more permission and obviously had much more time to just freely play, like, that's really good information. Ever since I was a really little kid, like, I was naturally attracted to music, specifically rock music and pro wrestling. And throughout my life and career, I've respected that by engaging professionally and artistically in both of those things. We just don't really live in a culture, and especially have like an education system and so on, that I think helps provide us that narrative. It feels much more industrial. But like Professor Kevin, he's an accountant. Like, if he loves something like pro wrestling, like, every pro wrestling company or every pro wrestler could use an accountant. So again, it's like thinking about how we can start bringing these things into our lives professionally. I'm a mental health professional, but I maintained being a drummer and still like get to use the playfulness of my musicianship and the passion I have for being a drummer in a different field. So when he talks about play history, I think that's what he's trying to get out of the people that he's working with. It's, what did you just naturally do? Like, what were you naturally attracted to? What gave you energy? How did you play? Look, it's no surprise that you and I are doing this, and I've been podcasting for many years. When I was a little kid, I would have a cassette recorder thing and just make radio shows by myself for no one. But that was me playing alone. And then when I was in high school, I like asked to do the morning announcements. So like, if I wasn't being paid for that, no one was suggesting I did that. I didn't do it because I thought that would help get me into a college. I did it because like it felt fun to do that. So even me podcasting or live streaming as an adult, that is, in my opinion, like respecting some natural vitality or expression of play that I've always had.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, for me, starting the show is, I think a big part of it was to feed my own curiosity about topics that I otherwise wouldn't have as much reason to investigate if not for something related to work. And there you go again, even to like be able to read a book like this, I kind of needed that work excuse in order to, have to really focus and I think, to dedicate my time to. But my curiosity about topics such as this is to me like a form of a pleasure. It's a form of play. It's something I would do regardless of whether or not I was making money from it or I had a reason to share it for people. So I suppose, it's one of the great things about like the free form of podcasting and, like starting our own thing with John is the ability to kind of like integrate play in many different types of ways. So um, I'm very curious to hear from the room right now. There's several of you out there who are always typically here, so we thank all of you guys who are there. And has this topic resonated with you? What are the forms of play in your life that you might employ? What is something that you think you can employ in your life? And really, any sort of general questions about the topic of wellness in general, if you have. So we're taking phone calls right now from everybody. And you know what? Let's start here from Professor Kevin himself, the accountant. What's going on, Professor Kevin?
Hey, Wai. Hey, Jordan. Thanks for another interesting topic. It's been really but previously I didn't get to listen to these shows live. So coming in here now, it's been really engaging and really interesting and a pleasure to be involved with it. I have an anecdote related to this topic because a couple of years ago I was on a Jungian psychology retreat actually. And part of the retreat, we were walking the entire group and the mentor. We were walking through like a state park or something like that. And there was lots of trees and bluffs and just we were in nature. And we came up to a body of water and everybody was sort of stoically walking. And when we got to this body of water, people were sort of very seriously, standing there and staring at the water and, had very like reflective looks on their faces. And the mentor came by and just started splashing around. And it was like literally teaching us about play and that what we were doing didn't have to be so stoic and so serious. None of us realized that until, okay, now the person leading this retreat is splashing around and sort of indicating to us, hey, this is a time to play and be playful and be curious and everything that we're talking about here. So I think, and I'm going to get to a question with this, but I think that as adults, we have a tendency to let our egos get in the way and think of things like, oh, I have to be serious right now, or I'm supposed to be doing this. It's the supposed tos. So Jordan, I'm curious, like, do you have any rituals or sort of how do you navigate, letting your ego down, being okay with being playful and not being so self-conscious of like, oh, there's other people like walking on this trail and like, I'm not supposed to be splashing around in the water. Like, how do you navigate that?
That's a good question, man. And I appreciate the story because I experience that all the time when I'm serving groups of adults, especially and even more so in a professional context, like at a corporation or things like that. For me, I think it's just been an evolution. Look, when I'm about to share a group music making play shop, and I'll specifically call them play shops instead of a workshop, my biggest hurdle up front is helping people like feel comfortable, especially trying something so vulnerable as like playing music in a group setting. And you're right. It's so ego based and so many people are stuck in their head thinking like, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to look stupid. Everyone's going to look at me. People are going to judge me. And people are judging and criticizing themselves as well. So what I at least offer to them, and then to maybe answer your question a bit more pointedly, what I try to offer myself in return when I'm in these situations is like to just like allow myself to be human. And to remind myself that play is healthy. Again, why I'm motivated to have a conversation like this. Not only is play healthy, but it's natural. And if I feel like I'm going to look stupid or make a mistake, then like I'll smile and keep going because it's really not that serious with most of these things. Also, it helps that I play a lot. And even when I'm like quote unquote performing, like I'll mess up, I'll make a mistake. Like I'm always fine. Like it's not that big of a deal typically. So I think the more that I allow myself to play, the more just, I guess, confidence or comfortable I am in entering a play state. And like, no wonder I'm someone who like chose to raise his hand and like help others come into that. I'm always fascinated by this phenomena of like dancing, like at a club or at a wedding. And it's like, who's the first to dance? You know, everyone wants to dance, but most don't want to be the first to like say I and start dancing. But what happens is one or two people start dancing and then a couple others join. And then there's like this critical mass where all of a sudden everyone's dancing. And it's like, say I, you know, just like start. And a part of it too, like I, you know, I don't mind like looking foolish. You know, like part of what I did in quarantine, watching my own natural behaviors of how I dealt with all the free time was like, I just started going live on Instagram weekly. Wai was the guest. And like, that was one of the most playful things I've ever done. And I'm acting like a fool. And a lot of the point was to make myself the butt of the joke. And like, to me, that's funny, you know, but I understand that most people aren't going to be that open and non-judgmental and improvisational and kind to themselves. But I don't know, man. I just like I go out in public and it just feels like there's so much tension and like constriction and people are so like fucking wound up tight. And I understand like life is serious and life can be deadly and like there are bills to be paid and so on. But like if that's all there is and we don't allow like the flip side of life to be expressed and owned and valued, like then what the fuck are we even doing?
That deserves a cowbell hit.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Professor Kevin. I love that you brought up maybe your example of your YouTube shows, because I know, you and I are both fans of, I guess, the types of, like the Tom Green, maybe Eric Andre sort of type of trolling type of comedy. And that's definitely a form of comedy I definitely naturally gravitate to, the type of like prank humor that exists out there. And for me, a big part of the reason is because, it's people that are placing themselves in this incredibly tense social situation that is tense for no reason and trying to break those boundaries, like walking into a store with, I don't know, bread on your head, or like, I don't know, whatever one of the Tom Green stunts is, just to see the reaction of the people around him, to me, is wildly fascinating. And if I'm maybe, I find myself in a situation in daily life where I'm tasked to do something that might be a little bit out of character or maybe even scary and nerve-wracking, sometimes I'll just think about me trying to entertain myself the way that I would watching somebody else, do this as a bit of a stunt or a troll sketch, just to see what other people's reactions would be like. In the end, if you know the person that you are, if you're confident in the person that you are, the judgment of other people shouldn't really affect you. Obviously, that's easier said than done, but I just try to look at it all as entertainment. Look at the world as a game, just as Jordan did with his work, for instance.
And again, that's the balanced way. Like before, I said that life is serious and like there are real stakes. But at the same time, it's not that serious. And like it's going to end. So it's like, like it's finding the duality in that and not shutting one side of that off. And I think oftentimes many of us do that. It's hard to like hold these two opposing thoughts. It's hard to like own the perhaps the irony or the sense of like, well, how can I just like let go and have fun because like there's a pandemic going on and like people are dying and people are starving and like these things are true. But like again, there needs to be a balance in the duality. Like, and we see this in all kinds of symbols throughout wisdom, whether it's like a yin yang or like an infinity symbol and things like this. It's like there's light and there's shadow, and both need to be fully respected.
Let's go to another call. We go to Chicago and Scrump. Thank you for joining us again. Bang, bang. What's going on?
Bang, bang.
Bang, bang. How's it going, gentlemen? Happy to be talking to Jordan. I've been trying to join you guys for like the last 2-3 shows, but work didn't permit it. And I figured, hey, what's a better show to come on here and spill all the beans on CM Punk, right?
This would be it. Yeah. And this is not coming out publicly until a week later. So,
No, I joke. It's everyone's been asking, and I'm just like, I don't know. I made Ryan not tell me anything like that because I like to be surprised.
Tell us how much money he's making, how many dates he's working, how long his contract is. See if you can get that.
I'll DM you two on the side as soon as I find out. But no, there was a thing in that, again, just in you guys talking about like trying to enjoy what you do at work, and like I kind of pride myself here on being like the Iron Man of pro wrestling tees, and that like I tend to work a little bit more than some of the people, and it's not like oh, check me out, I work more hours. It's kind of just like I genuinely enjoy my job and what we do, and like there's a real good sense of camaraderie here with everyone. Like it's not clearly we make wrestling t-shirts, so it's not like some sort of corporate job where we I don't know, it's just not a corporate job. Half the time we're running around like yelling at each other in a very like fun kind of a family type of way. And I think that definitely makes for like the nights where we have to be here till midnight kind of easier. Like there's a documentary that they did here on us like a year or two ago for All Out. And my favorite thing about that documentary that like, I don't know how many people pick up on it, but it's so many times, like they'll be recording someone, like this is Scrump, he does this and that. You just hear other employees in the background, like us yelling at each other, like calling each other names in a playful way that we do normally. And it's not a thing that like I look at the comments to be like, why is everyone yelling, shut up, Jeremy? Like that's kind of rude or something like that. And I definitely consider myself like lucky to have an environment like that, because I think I can speak for most of us where like I've had jobs before where you kind of just clock in and clock out and like don't really talk to anyone, or even if you do, it's not that same sense of camaraderie that like, dare I say, like you and John have, or most of the people within the Post family do. So I definitely think like having that ability to be able to just like shoot the shit, whether like, hey, did you catch Dynamite, or oh my God, did you see what happened on this episode of Loki? Like being able to have those sorts of like relationships with your work family. Cause if for the most part, like that's what I consider, like I see these guys more than I see my actual family, but like, I definitely think that helps with just your mental health, like in general.
Yeah. You really are one of the perfect people to talk about a topic like this with the Scrum. So thank you very much for sharing. And, just even like, I don't know, shooting the shit about last night's edition of Dynamite with your colleagues. That is a form of social play. You're there bonding with other people about something that's not necessarily done for the purpose of work. And that in itself probably, helps you maybe go through your workday a little bit easier, a little bit better, and makes you stay those extra hours a little bit longer. So thank you very much.
But wait. Thank you, Scrum. But like, even if the point is to have like productivity in the work. So I'd imagine at Pro Wrestling Tees, there's a lot of creative people. There's graphic designers. There's people marketing and figuring out like, how can we like better engage with the market? Like that takes creativity. That takes imagination. That takes like permission to present potentially bad or dumb or like silly ideas. Like we need to have permission to play in order to do that. I tried really hard to bring some of that spirit to the office at Ring of Honor. And I love those people. I had a great time. But like, for me, it was like kind of boring, and maybe others in that office found me to be a breath of fresh air. I know some of them found me to be just annoying. But for me, it's like, if this is how I'm going to spend the majority of my time, especially during the day in the morning, like I can still take my work seriously, but not necessarily have to take myself that seriously. Like, we can enjoy ourselves. We can enjoy the existence of our lives while still being responsible and like being productive and creating meaningful work. So like when I hear Scrum gets a sense of that in the culture of where he works, like that's awesome. And I don't know why most of us can't do that. You know, I have friends that are medical professionals that are doing surgery and they're cracking jokes, but like they're still taking their shit seriously, but they don't have to take themselves as seriously. And that's kind of the lubricant that I mentioned earlier that like makes life worth living.
I mean, I think it might just. Oh, sorry, Wai.
Please go ahead. No.
No, I think it might be like an American thing mostly because like I get that. Like I totally get that. Like we've had, like, you know, as much as everyone gets along here, like we've had people who want to clock in at, you know, 9, 10 a.m. or whatever, do their work. They don't want to joke with anyone. They just want to do their work. And, you know, the minute someone is, you know, giggling at something or they're playing, you know, music, instantly they're just like, oh, great. This person's not, you know, Jordan's not focusing on his work and it's distracting me. And like, you know, everyone kind of just works different, but like, I get 100% what you're saying, Jordan, where like, there is a way to, you know, these are my tasks for the day. This is what I have to get done. You know, there's a real sense of urgency, but at the same time, I can, you know, like have fun. Like, it doesn't always have to be, you know, like, shut up, just everyone do their work and shut up. And then once 1 o'clock hits, we can all have fun. Like, there's a balance.
Totally. And with that balance, sorry, Wai, I just want to make the point that I've found that throughout my life, the more I've actually given myself permission to play and to be more expressive and to like honor my own vitality, that's actually made me more effective as a professional.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say, you know, especially in a medical profession or like working in a hospital or working as an EMT or working in an ICU, like I have to imagine some levity is really necessary for really everybody's mental sanity, especially over the past year, you know, the amount of stuff that's happened. So it's complete. I mean, we think about recess. Recess is a mandatory class in school, and it's not necessarily when we become adults and we somehow lose sight of that. So I really appreciate the conversation, Scrum. Back to work.
Awesome. Take care, you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, dude.
Let's go up next to the archivist. The archivist, Brad, are you at work right now?
I am, Wai. But and then that's why I haven't been able to join you guys ever really before. But I am at work. But hey, I got to incorporate some play right now.
Welcome.
I just wanted to say with what Jordan was talking about, how like as a child, instincts, man, like instincts of play are just there. You don't know why you do something sometimes, but you just, you know, it seems fun and you do it. And I would just say that I have 2 sons, a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, and thinking about it now, I'm just envious of how much my 6-year-old can make anything into a game, right? Like and especially with me and my wife, like trying to get something done around the house, you know, trying to make dinner or something. I could be standing there with my legs open, cutting, you know, some vegetables or something, and he sees my legs open. Hey, that's a tunnel now. I'm gonna start playing. I'm gonna make a game out of going through my dad's legs, and I've had to stop myself so many times from being such a buzzkill now that I'm a dad and I'm trying to get dad things done. And I even said to my wife, I'm being too much of a dad right now, like a dad that wants to get things done, and just realizing that your kids, like especially when you see it through them, there's so many opportunities in a day just to have fun and just see something like an open pair of legs and go, hey, that's a tunnel. I can make a game out of this. And I'm just, you know, like it's so hard with the way that we are, especially now, like I'm working from home part-time as we kind of get back into the swing of things, and just how, you know, now I'm at home, my computer's always there. I see work all the time. And it's so hard to try to get out of that flow of just work and deadlines and stuff. And to see your son just come up with a game instantly, it's just, I don't know, I'm just very envious of it, and I'm trying to make myself be less of a buzzkill and let my son enjoy playing. Like there's a time to do your work. There's a time to let mom and dad get something ready. But it's just looking at him and seeing the world through his eyes. It's you can see how we should be incorporating more play into our day-to-day life. And I just kind of wanted to share that through a dad's eyes, at least.
That is an awesome
Beautiful.
anecdote. Yeah, an experience that obviously Jordan and I don't have. So thank you for sharing that, Brad. Jordan, why do you think it is that maybe children feel permission? I mean, do they even think about permission, or do they just do it? And why don't adults feel the? I mean, there are many reasons why we can't simply go through people's legs like in our day-to-day lives. But
speak for yourself, Wai.
Sure, but yeah, why is it that it's so much more natural to them before maybe the weathering of society?
Brad said it's an instinct. He's right. First of all, as the official POST Wrestling archivist, Brad, honored to share space with you, sir. And that was really helpful to offer this conversation, this idea of what we can learn from children. I work with children often when I'm doing these drum circle programs. And one thing I've learned from them is that if my motivation to be there and to do the work is to just make the money, well, they're going to make me like fucking earn that money. But if my spirit and my energy and intent is to be there to play and to serve them and to have a good time, it's so much easier. And what I've also noticed is that the other age-specific population that is similar to kids in how they relate to my programming are older people, much older people. And it's because I think they realized that entering, adolescence and adulthood and middle age, where they tried to keep things buttoned up and beat the play out of themselves, like once they got to a certain point, I think they realized like, fuck, that wasn't the thing to do. Like, who cares? And at that point, you start thinking about like mortality. It's like, you're going to die. Why did you take it so seriously all along? So go ahead, Wai.
Well, I was going to say, how much of that is due to our responsibility that increases as we age and decreases as we age? The idea of having to maintain sort of like this togetherness about you because you have so many things to handle, so that you can't really either appear to be just completely carefree or simply you don't have the time or attention to.
But again, like there's a balance to it. I would argue that much of what perhaps allowed me to be successful in really unique ways professionally, whether it's doing stuff at a high level as a mental health clinician or doing the stuff with Ring of Honor or some other things I've done in life, like I think my playfulness has been really helpful. It's allowed me to make mistakes. It's allowed me to be rejected. It's allowed me to like advocate for myself and like to know that like it's not that big of a deal like if I don't win the game, every time. I think many people that like I work with appreciate the fact that like I can both be really serious and be really intentional about the objective of the work, but like still have a good time and still make things playful and still be engaging and improvisational and lighthearted. I think, look, the ways in which we're socialized in education, it's like, what is success? What is validation? It's getting a good grade. And it really doesn't have much to do with like how cooperative you are with other people, or like how creative you are with other people, or like how generous you are. Like it's about what's your grade? And then that determines what kind of college we get into, which the narrative goes that helps determine what like job we get. And I think that's just, it's a busted narrative. And I think that narrative beats the vitality and the aliveness and the playfulness out of many of us.
Thank you very much for the call, Brad. Hope to hear from you next month.
Thank you,
We
Brad.
go to New Jersey, and the word with the friend with word himself, if he is around.
Hello?
What's going on,
Hello.
Brandon?
Hey, what's up, man? I guess you're talking about being serious and whatnot, or joking around. And where I work at, it's just like a constant like comedy club. Everybody cuts up on each other, but and we're only together for like I guess till like 4 hours before we leave, and then you're alone in your thoughts. But
And for people who aren't aware, Brandon, what do you do?
I'm a UPS driver. I'm currently pulled over right now talking to you on my break. So
Well, thank you for spending it with us.
No, thank you. So like, yeah, I joke around a lot with my coworkers and whatnot, and I whatever
Really?
anybody else with anybody else I interact with. But what if it's the inverse and you try to be serious and they don't take you seriously? Like they think you're always joking around. Like, what's what do you do? Like I guess interacting with you and whatnot, I guess you think I'm always joking around and whatnot, and for the most part, I am, and it's fun and whatnot, and I'm sure it's fun that you do it back and whatnot, or anybody, I don't know, but it's just, I like whenever I try to be serious, like they don't take me seriously, like it's I don't know, it's weird. I don't know, I'm laughing right now, but I'm trying to emote like in all seriousness. Like I don't know. It's what do you make of that? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Brandon, I'm curious. Like, do you take yourself seriously?
No, I don't.
Well, then why?
I want to, but I mean, when I try to, I sound. I don't know. In my head, I sound dumb. Like I'm like, this is not you. You're not that serious. You're a buffoon who laughs. Who has a weird, especially when you're nervous. I'm sorry.
Well, look, I appreciate like the honesty and the vulnerability in sharing that, and like inside game first. Like why expect anyone to buy into shit that you don't buy into in the first place, especially as it relates to yourself? You know. So look, one of the reasons why I enjoy your presence so much is because of your lightheartedness and of your humor and so on. And like to the point where you've become a fixture of this post wrestling culture. There's a reason why Wai will typically wait until the end to bring you in, because you provide a ton of value in how you present. But I don't think Wai would also like do that, or we would like champion you in the way in which we do, like if that's all we thought of you. Like, I very much respect your opinions and perspectives on pro wrestling and some of the other topics that you know we chat about in this community. And I think it's the balance of that in which allows someone like me to like not just take you seriously, but like really fucking take you seriously.
Yes, I completely agree with what Jordan said. I would also say, I mean, I don't. Definitely, it could be frustrating if you feel like people aren't taking you seriously, Brandon. But you also have a gift, dare I say it. And I'm gonna regret saying this later, but the ability to, I don't know, just put people at ease and make them laugh. So I wouldn't really take that for granted either, and I would definitely embrace it. But as far as like maybe I don't know if you wanted to introduce serious conversation into something. I don't know. Well, how does it occur typically? Maybe around your more personal friends or even family members. How do you typically engage like that?
Oh, they try to engage me on a serious topic, and I look at them like deadpan in the face, and I say something. I don't know. I try to be witty. I don't know. I get nervous when I'm cornered and I'm I'm being asked something like very very serious. Like what I'm saying. I don't know. It's my neurosis. It's like I guess it's deflecting of something else or something like that. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be talking out of my ass, but.
And dude, like it's also interesting that you use the word like it feels like you're being cornered, when maybe for some people they're just trying to chat with you.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. And I feel bad because I know that person to them is trying to, communicate with me in something that they want to get across and whatnot. And yet I I don't know. I get nervous.
For me, Brandon, yeah, I totally do understand. And for me, if you wanted to ever talk about something personal or serious, off air, on air, like all you have to say is like, hey, I get a little nervous when I speak, so I might laugh a bit, but what I have to say to you is somewhat serious. Would you know, like that's all you have to do is really maybe preface it, and I would hope that most people would be open to something like that.
I'm not. I never. I mean, I've done that with you before. Like I've DM'd you, and you've responded in kind in a serious topic like the pandemic and whatnot. We I don't know if you remember, but we spoke. And
I do.
You gave me some confidence and whatnot, and I appreciated that. Like nobody has to do that shit, but no, I get that. Like, I don't know. It's just how do you say it? It's like a never-ending cycle for me. I don't know. It's just something I'm trying to work on, but I don't know. Maybe.
What I'd like to offer you, Brandon, one, like in the struggle of you trying to, like evolve from kind of where you are now, like I'd hope that you'd be really kind to yourself in the process, because when any of us try to change something that we don't necessarily like about ourselves, like there can be frustration and there could be shame, or there could be like anger at ourselves for like, why isn't this easier? So one, I'd hope you'd just be really like kind to yourself and give yourself grace in that process. But like, dude, the fact that you're sharing this with us and like publicly, like fucking respect for that. You know, like this is you actually respecting yourself. And this is you like taking responsibility for these things. And I would argue most people don't have the stomach to do that. So the fact that you're actually just saying these things out loud in a supportive environment, like that is you doing the work, literally.
I consider this a safe space because I feel you guys are pretty genuine with stuff like this and whatnot. I don't just like I go to my therapist and whatnot, but I also like I don't really talk like this to random people unless like it's a trust and whatnot. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Brandon, and I appreciate you deflecting from the Bellator preview show for this.
I bought that shirt, by the way. It's a great shirt.
It's a wonderful shirt, the Eric Marcotte shirt, available now, store.postwrestling.com. What was his reaction like? I haven't seen it, of course. So, what was Eric's reaction?
Are you asking me? I don't know. I just turned this on.
Oh, never mind. No, so you didn't even come from that feed. Wow.
No,
man.
This is you guys were talking about a topic that I always wanted to talk about. It was weird. I don't know, but it was something that I wanted to talk to. And I guess one of you guys about, and you did it. So I appreciate it. It's weird, like when you talk about like on post, like when you guys are talking about something serious, and I want to chime in, and then I chime in, and then it becomes a mitigated disaster. So I'm glad.
No.
I'm glad. No.
Never a disaster.
No. It's fine. I find it funny, but I thrive in chaos. But I'm glad you guys are talking about this. I love you guys, and thank you. Thank you for giving me.
Thank you very much, Brandon.
Go ahead. What were you going to say? You're going to say something.
I was going to say, often, yes, when we have you on the shows at the end, we know we have an idea of like what to expect. And sometimes it might not be that serious. But then there's the odd occasion where you'll actually bring up like a really interesting topic of discussion. And ultimately, I think John and I like hope we are able to maybe navigate like a conversation to find sort of like the heart of what you are trying to say, and if it is indeed a good curious question or something like you're actually trying to make a point, I hope we can identify that, and I hope we can actually treat that with maybe the intent that you were expecting. So if we're not, please let me know.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you. I love you guys.
Love you too, dude.
Thank you. All right. I'm not.
He's still laughing. I love that, man.
Man, some fantastic calls as always on the edition of the Wellness Policy, and we thank everybody for joining us Thursday at 1 p.m. We'll be back next month, September, right, Jordan?
September 2nd, I believe.
September 2nd, yes, right before All Out Weekend, September 2nd, the first weekend of September. And Jordan, as we wrap up this edition, what are we talking about next month?
Well, perhaps this topic of play was just completely in rhythm with one Brandon from New Jersey. I think next month's topic could be tailor-made for one Maddie B. We will be talking about dating. Wait, Ting.
Oh my, wow. Very exciting. Dating.
We got thumbs up in the.
All right.
Zoom.
Much of this comes from actually Jake from Chicago, Jake from the Windy City's suggestion on a recent edition of one of our podcasts. It is a topic that I don't really necessarily think about when it comes to wellness, but of course it's a part of life, and it's something that we all think about, and it's certainly something that can be very stress-inducing and also pleasure-inducing. So,
Professor Kevin in the comments saying, "I'm married and this topic terrifies me."
It shouldn't. It shouldn't. We, most of us, I guess, have some form of dating history, and yeah, like to maybe share some of these topics might be a bit nerve-wracking. But you know what? Jordan and I will try to lead the conversation, and I'm really looking forward to it, actually.
As am I. I feel like a good energy. It's, I think just because dating and romantic courtship and all that, like it's vulnerable as fuck. It can be incredibly awkward. Obviously, the stakes are high in that you can be rewarded greatly, or you could have your heart broken. So, I don't know. Brandon from New Jersey said he kind of thrives in chaos. In a sense, I do too, but that's kind of what makes me feel alive when like the stakes are high.
To me, there are like fewer maybe vulnerable moments that we all kind of have to put ourselves in than perhaps, the feelings of the beginnings of a relationship or a first or a second date. It's a process where I feel like you learn a lot about yourself and, maybe more so than you do about the other people. So we'll be talking about all this. And I don't think we're going to focus on a specific book or even a documentary. We might just kind of more loosely base this on like a conversation. And we hope to have a lot of integration because we're going to need it from all of you guys in the Zoom room. So do make some time, mark it in your calendars. Thursday, September 2nd, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. in the UK. So anything else, Jordan, before we wrap up?
Yeah, man. Like, where are you at with Lego? Like, what are you working on, or what's the next thing and like, is that your play? Because the Lego thing, I've never owned a piece of Lego. Or a puzzle. I don't even know what the language would be.
Lego brick, a Lego piece. Yeah. Where I'm at with it, like I've actually gotten into it a lot more, perhaps recently. Like it's always been a part of my life. It's a part of my screen name. Everybody, like for people who don't know, 0937 flipped upside down is Lego.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Bombshell, eh? Yeah.
I just assumed that was like your birthday.
Like September 1937.
I guess I clearly didn't think that much into it, but I assume people have like 4 numbers. It's like a birthday or something.
It's not. No, it's not. It's something that's always been a part of my life as a kid. But then, I never really I kind of like stepped away from it, as most people do, what we call the dark ages. People have the wrestling dark ages. In the Lego community, there are dark age. It's a phrase as well. But then I just kind of got back into it. I think when the Lego movie came back out. And, it was like, oh, okay, there's this like cute little thing from like my childhood. Yeah, it's nice. And then like I just got one of the sets. And then I got like a Back to the Future set. And that just kind of really got the ball rolling because like I realized Lego now has a lot of adult fans. Similar, it's a lot like pro wrestling where like pro wrestling traditionally has been geared towards children. But as its audience grew, so did its product. And Lego these days has like released a lot of things for adults with complex building techniques. When you think building techniques, what is this, like engineering here? No, not necessarily. But there is a great deal of really interesting math when it comes to the design of a Lego brick. Like many people know, 3 plates stacked up equals 1 brick. Did you know that I believe it's like 5 bricks stacked on its side equals the length? I don't know. It's a side building technique that is like wildly fascinating. And I've gotten into like, half plate, like they do half plate builds now. I could geek out over this thing for like an hour. So,
And I feel that in your energy. I appreciate that. I just cannot relate to it, at least that specifically. So, like, is it something that you do with others, or it's completely in isolation?
oh, I would say it's outside of maybe interacting with some online forums and online communities about it. It's a pretty solitary thing. You know, like occasionally if I get something that Pauline might be interested in, we might like build together. But it's primarily a solitary thing, and I'm more than happy with it. You know, I have a little personal collection here, and for me, it's just a great stress reliever. Not just in the actual building itself, but in the browsing. Like my gateway is not necessarily like watching more wrestling when I'm done work. It's watching reviews and interviews with like Lego designers. Like that's my de-stressor. So that's something I definitely has enjoy in my spare time.
And when you get like the Lego Adidas shoe, it comes with directions.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, you're not expected to build it just off of the photo on the box. No.
Do you ever just free play with the bricks?
Yeah, sometimes, if I have a bunch of spare bricks. Admittedly, that was something I probably did a whole lot more as a child. These days, I'm more of a collector than necessarily a builder, And for me, it's like
you buy the thing, you build the thing, and then it goes on display.
Yeah, goes on display right there or wherever I want to throw it. I've been building like this set of like flowers that they release. That's just awesome. Like that we're actually going to try to integrate into the wedding somehow. But like, anyway, so much of, I think, adult collecting is more so like just kind of building what's set out in front of you and displaying. For me, like, to get into like creative building requires like a far bigger collection of loose pieces that I just don't really have. So I'm not as interested in that these days, but I definitely admire people who can do it. And
not unlike playing with wrestling figures as a kid, and now many adults collect them.
Exactly. Yeah. Put them in the Detolf. So when Zack Ryder came out with the Detolf for the Nick Gage match, I was like, oh, okay, I know where he got that. Yeah. So it's just fun. It's interesting. It's creative. It's a passion. Dare I say it? Yeah. What about you, Jordan? What's sort of your play activity?
Instagram stories. We all know this.
Really?
I just make shit on Instagrams. Yeah, I mean, like that's if I'm just gonna like have some time to kill, and if you go through like my archives, I'll have different series. And here, like I did a whole series for like a year where the only thing is that there's a song that can only last 5 seconds, and there's a Mountain Dew can in the bottom right corner, and those were my parameters. And then, like, how creative can I be with those two rules, for example? And so, like, to me, that's playful. That's creative expression. Yeah, I play music, and I don't know, like, just again, like, part of the point of this conversation, I try to make life play. Like, when I go to the food store and like when I'm interacting with people, it's like life's a playground. I mean, when I pitched myself to Joe Koff, to be honest, for a high-level position at Ring of Honor, I literally told him, I want to play in your sandbox. And that's what I did.
And he's like, it's in my backyard right here. Yeah, go nuts.
Yeah, well, had a good time while I did it.
Showed a sandbox. Okay, wow, that's interesting. That's very fascinating. Maybe that's my main takeaway from this conversation, Jordan, to look at life as a sandbox where you can be free to explore and free to engage your ideas. So
beautiful.
That wraps it up for this month's edition of the Wellness Policy. We hope that you guys will check in with us next month. And if the conversation interests you at all and you would like to continue it, you can join the Discord, or is it postwrestling.com/Discord. We have a wellness policy channel where Jordan is always active. I definitely check in on it as much as I can. And you can leave some topics, some feedback. Also, for patrons, forum.postwrestling.com, we have a wellness policy thread where we're always taking questions if you have them. Or the best way, of course, is to join us next month here. But until next time, Jordan, take us away.
I guess I'm going to try out this new catchphrase. We'll see if it sticks or not. but scoops up.